Welcome to the channel and welcome to today's run through of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer updates, keeping you right up to date with everything. I'm Jamie. Before we get into it, smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let's jump straight into it. So we've been waiting for an eternity for some news regarding Bryan Mbeumo, and we got some news, a big bomber from David Ornstein, but it's not good news. But let's run through all the latest regarding that transfer. So firstly, yesterday, Fabrizio Romano, I thought this was a sign that this deal was getting closer, suggesting that Brentford were looking at a replacement for Mbeumo. So Brentford have started considering a potential replacement for Bryan Mbeumo, while the negotiations with Manchester United are still ongoing. It's still underway, with Manchester United hopeful to have a breakthrough in talks as soon as possible. Brentford appreciate Omari Hutchinson as an option to replace Bryan Mbeumo. It's one of the names they are considering internally. Now, that was also confirmed by The Standard. Now, The Standard are an outlet that are close to Brentford, suggesting that Brentford were looking at Omari Hutchinson as a replacement for Mbeumo, and I was thinking, okay, good, this looks like that deal's getting a bit further down the line then if Brentford are starting to line up replacements. So this was what the Standard said. So Brentford are weighing up a move for Omari Hutchinson as they look to replace the Manchester United-bound Bryan Mbeumo. United remain the front runners for Mbeumo's signature and are preparing a third bid. Mbeumo and Brentford have both grown frustrated by the slow progress of negotiations with United, but a deal which would be a club record sale for Brentford is still expected to be finalised. So I was thinking in my head when I heard that news, okay, steps are going and Brentford are starting to look at alternatives. That means they must be more willing to do a deal, or we're closer to getting a deal done if they're starting to do that. But then we had Laurie Whitwell come out saying that Man United potentially awaiting Brentford to ease £70 million valuation demand for Mbeumo, whose mood at training could impact negotiations. So we'll come back to that one. But David Ornstein said the gap between Manchester United and Brentford on their valuation of Bryan Mbeumo remains considerable. The two sides are several £1 million apart. There have been no significant developments over the past couple of weeks, and a deal is still not imminent, but talks continue as United work to complete a move for the Cameroon forward. So David Ornstein dropping a bit of a bomber, effectively saying that for the last 2 weeks while we've been in negotiation with Brentford, nothing's happened. We're still miles apart in valuation, several £1 million apart in valuation, no significant developments, and the deal's not imminent. Like, what on actual earth have we been doing with this transfer, and what are we doing with these negotiations? Because it's just, like, how can you sit in negotiations for like 2 weeks after having a second bid already rejected for Bryan Mbeumo and not be anywhere further down the line? Like, it's either we're just completely incompetent and we're not budging on our valuation of Mbeumo, which seems to be the case, or Brentford keep moving the goalposts, which could be plausible, because going back to Laurie Whitwell's piece, he's now saying £70 million, which is the made-up number that Brentford leaked that Tottenham had bid for Mbeumo, when that was completely debunked. Tottenham haven't bid £70 million, but Brentford put it out there to say we want Tottenham have bid £70 million for Mbeumo. So has that always been the asking price to start with? But then are United that stupid that they would bid 62.5 million, because the initial reports were saying that they wanted Matheus Cunha money? And what an absolute calamity, what a nightmare situation this deal is. Like, give us your thoughts and feelings on it in the comments, because, you know, I understand the situation in terms of in terms of where we're trying to go, because there's two sides, I think, or there's two hands to this, right? On one hand, it's either us being tight and slow, and that's frustrating, especially when, you know, we want to give Amorim the best chance to succeed. The longer this deal drags on, the less time he has with the player, especially during pre-season as well. And then when you look at other teams that were already ahead of us in terms of quality, have been adding even more quality to their squads, and it ends up feeling like, you know, Amorim's being told to effectively just polish the turds. Or on the other hand, you know, if we overpay for Mbeumo, so that extra £5 to £10 million could be the difference between, you know, affording somebody like John Victor, for example. There's an update on him I'm going to go through. It could be the difference between us getting Watkins in further down the line, and it becomes a domino effect that if you overpay for one, you slightly overpay for the next, and then you slightly overpay for the next, and then suddenly you've ran out of money, the transfer window's closed, and then we need reinforcements in January, and it's like, well, we've got no money because we overspent on everybody in January, and that's the sort of thing that Ineos are trying to break and come away from. And it's just incredibly frustrating either way, because that's just as frustrating as not getting a deal done or not potentially paying the couple of £1 million extra to get Mbeumo done. And I don't know what the right or wrong decision is, but I know what the club feel about it, because Omar Barada did an interview with Andy Mitten in The Athletic back in June, where he said the following: "We're going to do our best to do more signings quickly. Sometimes when you're not quick, it's because you're negotiating and you're trying to make sure you get the right value for money. So being efficient or quick isn't necessarily the best thing for the club." So from Omar Barada himself, in an interview he did nearly a month ago, it's kind of told us what our priorities are as a club. It's the money aspect. It's not getting the deals done early. It's not getting them done quick. It's not giving Ruben Amorim the chance to succeed and the best possible, get everyone in pre-season nice and quick and nice and early. The priority for the club from our CEO is the money aspect, is to get to the right price. So we already know what we're prioritizing from this deal. And I just think it's incredibly, incredibly frustrating. And I'm getting, to the point where, it's almost laughable that we've been spending 7 weeks negotiating, and according to David Ornstein, we're no better off than what we were 2 weeks ago. So effectively, we've wasted 2 weeks not doing anything. And Laurie Whitwell was saying that we're going to have to almost rely on Mbeumo now. So effectively him maybe handing in a transfer request, which doesn't help his situation, or doing something at Brentford, which again, he might not want to do because he's got a good, they're the club that brought him in and gave him his chance and opportunity and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just an absolute disaster, this transfer. And again, I don't know who's to blame for that, because it's either us being tight, and I've mentioned that before, or it's Brentford moving the goalposts. And we don't know which one it is. It could be both. It's just we're tight and we're not wanting to pay, any more than what we value Mbeumo at, and then potentially maybe Brentford moving the goalposts at the same time as well. But either way, the reality is there's a massive stalemate almost, it feels, where there's nothing close, nothing imminent, according to David Ornstein. Incredibly, incredibly frustrating. Give us your thoughts and feelings on all of that in the comments below, because now the question is, what do we do? Do we keep negotiating? Because I think we've put all our eggs in this basket, because Romano keeps saying we're not in negotiations with anybody else. So we've effectively strengthened Brentford, I think, with our negotiations by not looking at alternatives or not having other deals lined up that we could move on quickly to, because we're putting all our eggs in the Mbeumo basket. And that, I think, is just empowering Brentford to keep moving the goalposts. But who knows? Who knows what's actually going on? But all I know is that I'm pissed off with it. I'm incredibly pissed off with the deal at the moment. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Let's move on to some other news. So Manchester United has contacted Tolisso's entourage to study the feasibility of a transfer. The 30-year-old player is attracted to the project, but he will not force his departure, while Lyon has planned to keep him. Manchester United has made the first contact with the player's entourage. Tolisso is not insensitive to the idea of joining such a prestigious team, while he has already rejected offers from Turkey in the summer. So that came from a good French journalist for L'Equipe, suggesting that Manchester United have made contact with Tolisso and that he would potentially be open to joining United. What do we think about that as a transfer dealing? Like, I thought we were coming away from signing players over a certain age, but that's obviously that transfer strategy has been abandoned. 30 years old. To his credit, though, I actually thought he was really good against us up until the red card. I thought he was really, really good against us. Was a player that caught my attention anyway in the games we played against him in the Europa League. Very good in terms of numbers for a midfielder, like an all-around, very good midfielder in terms of goal and attacking output, passes, dribbling, defensive. He is a very, very good player. He's a player that we actually were linked with when he was at Bayern Munich as well. I'm pretty sure I remember him being linked with us. 46 appearances, 10 goals, 9 assists. If this is a cheap deal and it's a stopgap, I'm not necessarily against it. Cheap, short-term contract, somebody to come in because we're running out of money not the worst idea. It's just, it's another frustration for me because we were told we're coming away from signing like 30-year-olds and, we only want to go Premier League experienced players now. He's not exactly Premier League experienced, but he is an experienced player. He's been at Bayern Munich and, obviously an international and stuff as well. So he is an experienced player, but not proven in the Premier League. But yeah, it could be one that's maybe cheap. Maybe it is the price. Maybe it is the price, or maybe he caught Amorim's eye when we played against him, because I know he stood out for me personally when we played against Lyon in both legs as well. I thought he was a really, really good player. So yeah, give us your thoughts and feelings on Tolisso in the comments below. Now let's move on to Victor. So Fabrizio Romano has confirmed that the interest in John Victor is genuine. So John Victor is appreciated at Manchester United internally, highly rated by scouts. Let's see if club to club contact will follow. At the moment, not yet. So Fabrizio Romano confirming that the links with John Victor are genuine. Laurie Whitwell, though, said that John Victor has been scouted in case Altay Bayindir leaves. United could only afford Emi Martinez's fee if Onana is sold. So Laurie Whitwell, Fabrizio Romano confirming the interest in John Victor is genuine. Laurie Whitwell suggesting that it would be if Bayindir leaves. Obviously, there's been stories that Bayindir's had a meeting at United as well. So we sell Bayindir, bring in John Victor as a replacement and a backup to Onana. But then obviously, I think he is potentially good enough to overtake Onana as well. But we would only go for Martinez if Onana is sold. And Onana is injured, so it's unlikely he's going to be sold as well. But interesting. So it's getting a little bit more heated around the Victor situation, relatively cheap as well. Was it just under £6 million, I think, is release clause as well. But we'll have to pay attention to that one and see how that plays out. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments below. Then United have been linked with a centre-half as well. So Manchester United recently scouted Eivind Helland, a 20-year-old centre-back from Brann. Now, that originally came from Norwegian news outlet, who I think are fairly decent, actually. But then that's also been confirmed by Laurie Whitwell. So Manchester United sent a scout to watch defender Eivind Helland, captain of Norway's under-21s, play for Brann against Viking on Sunday. The 20-year-old, who has 37 senior appearances for the club, can play centre-back and right back and would cost around 7 million to 8 million euros. He played well as Brann won the game 3-1. Now, not a player I've heard of, not much data or anything out on him neither as well. Doing some quick highlight watching and stuff, which isn't the best way to scout players. Looks pretty decent as well. And actually, that's one area that I think we're doing okay in, is bringing in these young players. And I think that's because of Christopher Vivell's input and obviously looking at these with his connections around the world, bringing in these types of players does actually look pretty decent as well. But again, that's just going off of the highlights. I'm no expert. You can tell me in the comments what you think around Helland. Does look like a pretty good profile of player to bring in. Like I say, can play in a couple of different positions. Even read a report in the Manchester Evening News, and they were linking him to Rodri and think that he could play in midfield in the future as well. But I'm not entirely convinced by that. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments though below. Give us your shouts. What do you think? Good shout for that sort of price as well, which is where we're effectively going to be, I think, for the rest of the transfer window, depending on what happens with Mbeumo. But at the moment, nothing's happening with Mbeumo, so we'll see what goes on there. Now let's move on to the striker talk. So Fabrizio Romano was talking about Vlahovic and the links that we've had with Vlahovic recently, where he's confirmed that the I don't want to say the interest. I don't know if we're quite interested in Vlahovic or he's being offered to us. But so Romano was saying the player was offered to Manchester United, and that's why we've had some stories and some rumours. Vlahovic has been offered to United because he has to leave Juventus. It's time for him to go. At the moment, Manchester United are focusing on Bryan Mbeumo and are not advancing on a deal for Dusan Vlahovic. So Romano confirming the stories that have been coming out from Italy. We've had ones around potential swap deals with Jadon Sancho, but then the report originally did say that it's Vlahovic's agents that are reaching out to Premier League clubs to try and get him a move to the Premier League, not necessarily in a similar way to like Dominic Calvert-Lewin and stuff, where it's the agent making inquiries rather than United seeking out Vlahovic. But he could become a viable option if he's available, because there are rumours that Juventus might terminate his contract and then he'll be a free agent. That might be, plausible for United to go for, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out, because it all depends on Juventus and other teams as well, and other interest in him. What do you think about Vlahovic? So 44 appearances, 17 goals, 5 assists. I'm not entirely convinced, but we're in a striker market where all our other targets have fallen. So Delap's gone to Chelsea. Osman's going to Galatasaray, Gyökeres is going to Arsenal, Ekitike's looking like he's going to go to Newcastle. You know, all of a sudden the striker targets are dwindling down. If we are interested in one, then, you know, Vlahovic might become a viable option at the end of the transfer window, but we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. But give us your thoughts on that in the comments. Now, another striker that that's been linked with us, or in a similar way to Vlahovic, actually, saying intermediaries have reportedly offered Man United the chance to sign Benjamin Sesko. According to TBR Football, Sesko has been offered to Chelsea, Liverpool and United. It comes after the RB Leipzig star wasn't signed by Arsenal, who are pushing for Victor Gyökeres. Now, I read that in the Manchester Evening News originally. I did read the report, though, from TBR Football, so I'm going to say take it with a pinch of salt, because it started with Liverpool interested in Sesko, and then further down the line it mentioned Chelsea, Liverpool and United, and I always think that that's clickbait when I read a story and the first sentence is Liverpool or this team are interested in this player, and then halfway down the article it then mentions Man United. I always think that's clickbait, and it felt a little bit like that with that story. But Sesko is a player that we know Christopher Vervel's got a connection with. We know we have scouted. I just don't know if the interest is quite there, because I don't think we've got the money to buy Sesko or the appetite to spend big money on players from overseas. I don't know if we're going to be doing that anymore. So, but we'll wait and see how it plays out. Again, give us your shouts on Sesko. 45 appearances, 21 goals, 6 assists last season. So not a bad return. I'm not sure if he's the right profile for Amorim's system, though, but is a player that we have been scouting and linked with for years. So could be, but again, depends on the price. I don't think we've got that sort of money to go for Sesko in the same way that we didn't have the money to go for Ekitike, because, and going off the reports, we're literally all in on Mbeumo. It's Mbeumo or nothing at the moment. So we don't get Mbeumo, who knows who we're going to pivot for or anything, because we are literally putting all our eggs in one basket when it comes to Mbeumo. I do think we're making inquiries, though, for other players, but we're nowhere near, you know, negotiating or working out contracts and fees and stuff. I think we've just put some feelings out and said, yeah, how much would he cost and what's the wages and stuff. But I think that's what we're doing with other players while we're getting all these links. But it's literally Mbeumo or nothing at the moment. But give us your thoughts on Sesko and in the comments. Now, another striker we've been linked with last couple of days or recently is Nicolas Jackson. So Sky are saying that Manchester United are one of the clubs keeping an eye on Nicolas Jackson's situation at Chelsea, but the focus is currently on Bryan Mbeumo in sales. So another link with Nicolas Jackson. I know that's gonna, you know, divide opinion, I think, in the comments, going off of the news recently regarding us being linked with Nicolas Jackson, but that could become, you know, Premier League proven. That seems to be the route we're going down. You know, we'll pay attention to that one. And then in terms of Hojlund, there's been speculation around Rasmus Hojlund, but Inter no longer hold an active interest in buying him after they signed 21-year-old Bowie. So Laurie Whitwell saying that while there was interest from Inter Milan, loads of stories reportedly what they wanted him, and we were going through all the news around loans and obligations to buy and 40 million prices and stuff, and they've signed Bowie and apparently have cooled their interest in Rasmus Hojlund. The only other team that I've heard linked with Hojlund is Roma, but that's not developed anywhere, or I've not heard any more substance to those reports as well regarding Rasmus Hojlund. I think Napoli might be interested, but they're going for Darwin Núñez and trying to get that deal done. So, you know, and if we don't sell Rasmus Hojlund, how likely is it that we're going to get the money to bring in a striker? Who knows? We need to get the exits done, as the multiple reports are. Mbeumo, possibly. Who knows, though, after today's news, what's going to happen there? Exits, and then work out what cash we've got left and go from there. That seems to be the transfer strategy at the moment that Ineos have worked on all year. Let's move on to the exit news. So Graham Bailey was saying that that Chelsea remain interested in Manchester United's Alejandro Garnacho. Garnacho's representatives are working hard to find a new club for the 21-year-old. So there is still interest apparently from Chelsea in Alejandro Garnacho. Is that where we're going to see some sort of deal with Nicolas Jackson? God, I hope not, but, you know, could be the way we have to go down. In terms of the entire Freedom 5, so Manchester United's out-of-favour players Rashford, Garnacho, Sancho, Antony and Malacia have been instructed to report for training only after 5 p.m. this week, once Ruben Amorim and the rest of the first-team squad have left Carrington. They're also being asked to train over the weekend while the main squad travels to Stockholm for Saturday's pre-season friendly against Leeds United. So the Athletic were saying that They're not even around the first team. They're not even like allowed anywhere near them. They're allowed in Carrington to use the training facilities after 5 o'clock. So that is a proper hardline approach from Man United and Ruben Amorim, and there's got to be a reason for that. There's got to be something going on and something, behind the scenes or something deeper that we're not, privy to as fans at United as to the reason why that would be the case. But that's really interesting that they're literally not allowed in Carrington while the players are there and they have to report after they've all left. That's brutal, but got to be a reason for it. Let's go through. So Marcus Rashford. So Fenerbahce are scheduled to meet Manchester United this week to negotiate a €40 million transfer for Marcus Rashford. Now that came from beIN Sports Turkey with like 2-odd million followers. So I'm going to assume that they're fairly decent, suggesting that Fenerbahce might be looking to negotiate for Rashford. But the problem with that is that Rashford probably won't want to go there or will refuse because he's waiting out for Barcelona. And we're no further down the line we're effectively waiting to see what Barcelona want to do, which might be why they're taking the hard stance and saying, right, you can turn up, and making it as difficult as they can for these players as a way to kind of force them out of the club. That's plausible, I suppose, when it comes to reading between the lines. But yeah, I can't see Rashford wanting to go to Fenerbahce. I do think Fenerbahce could afford him. And could definitely, afford his wages as well, because they do generally for cheaper deals pay high salaries in the Turkish league. But yeah, we'll wait and see how that one plays out. I can't see it personally. But yeah, give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. And then on Jadon Sancho, so a full agreement is closer for the deal of Sancho to Juventus. The offer is 15 million, and there is confidence a deal can be finalised this week. Now that came from an Italian journalist that's apparently quite close to Juventus, so we'll wait and see what happens there. The other reports are the reason why there might be a dip in asking prices because United are apparently in a rush to get this deal done. So Manchester United want European giants Juventus to make a bid for Sancho this week. And as there is determination to oversee a significant sale before travelling to the United States to face domestic rivals, West Ham United, Bournemouth, Everton ahead of the upcoming campaign. Manchester United are eager for Juventus to enter formal discussions, and their desperation to sell Sancho means they could even entertain a bid which falls below their current demands, as it would result in him heading through the exit door before stepping up their preparations for next term. So Dean Jones and Danny Russ suggesting that one of the reasons why the fees come down is because United are just willing to take whatever they can to get rid of Sancho and get his wages off the books, which might then help us from a PSR perspective or free up some money in order to get the Mbeumo deal done or whatever the situation is. But yeah, we need to keep an eye on it. So according to that report, United are in a rush to try and get this deal done this week before we go to the States, which I believe we're traveling out on Tuesday next week. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Alfredo Padula said that Jadon Sancho, more direct contacts today with his entourage and Juventus, complete agreement on the salary. He still prioritises Juventus, but his approval depends on agreements with Man United, and action is needed to prevent interference. Timing will be crucial to avoid risks. I don't know what that last bit means, but it's another Italian journalist who can be fairly decent. A little bit hit and miss, so Alfredo Badula sometimes, but suggesting that the deal is complete on the salary. Now we had Tutto Sport, I think it was yesterday, saying a similar thing. So it's more noise regarding potentially terms being agreed between Juventus and Sancho. We still don't know at this stage if Juventus are going to go push ahead with the deal and make a bid. And that's what apparently the other reports are saying, that they're trying to encourage Juventus to make a bid as quick as possible. And we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. And on Antony, so Real Betis will hold new talks with Manchester United this week regarding a deal for Antony. The Brazilian is only interested in joining the Spanish side, who are preparing an improved proposal for a potential loan with an option to buy. So that came from Rudy Galetti, saying that Betis and United are holding more talks for Antony. He's only wanting to go there, but they're talking about maybe a loan with an option to buy. Like, seriously, this deal is really, really grinding on me now. In terms of Antony is in Manchester to resolve his future. The player himself travelled yesterday from Brazil to England. He is the main target of Real Betis. United is not making it easy. Important week. We will keep reporting on. So that came from a South American journalist, effectively saying that Antony's flew back to Manchester to try and sort out a deal and a move. And it's just incredibly frustrating, the exits, because it seems like we have offers for these for players. Like, we've got offers for Antony from other teams. Bayern Leverkusen bought you yesterday. Como have made bids as well. I think there's interest from other teams in Rashford. We've had interest from like the Turkish side of things for Jadon Sancho as well. So we could sell these players. It's just the players are refusing to go or negotiate to the teams where we're getting the bids from, which is their right, it's their careers and stuff, but it's just incredibly frustrating because we want to obviously move on, but now we're at the mercy of these players effectively telling us which clubs they want to go to, but those clubs are either not making a bid in Barcelona's case, can't afford the player in Real Betis's case, or are still not sure if they want to sign the player in Juventus's case. And it's just an absolute shit show in terms of the exits. And I get the reason why. I know, it's difficult to move these players on because of their salaries and their reputation and stuff, but it's just even more annoying. The general feeling at the moment, I don't know about you, but just incredibly frustrated. The transfer window has just gone from, up here in terms of Cunha, and then, we had the news pretty much straight away after that Mbeumo had chosen to come us, and then slowly it's just like going down and down and down, and we're at the point now where it's like, oh my God, can we please just get some movements and get some deals done, and it's, just incredibly annoying. But give us your thoughts and feelings on that in the comments below. Give us your thoughts on all the other topics discussed in today's video, because as you all up to date with the latest news and transfer updates, don't forget to smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.